Hi, and welcome to your very first animation class in Autodesk Maya. This is Autodesk Maya. Uh, if you haven't seen it yet, there's an introduction to Maya video you can watch that'll explain how I'm doing this and how I switch from Windows and all the sort of what this stuff does. But today we are just concentrating on cracking this safe and animating. So let's get down to it. So this down here is the timeline, and when you're animating, this is where you live. Um, and this bar here is the rangefinder, and you can see you can extend how many frames you can see. So let's fix. I don't know why this is set to 15,000, but we'll make it 100. Um, minus that. There we go. So now you can see these are keyframes. You might have heard about those. Keyframes are points in time where we um, make something in animation be in a certain pose. So for instance, right now this box is right here. But if I were to set a key on frame 0, and I do that by hitting S, and it puts a little red mark there, we can also, should be an animation, go up here to the animation module, and with this selected, there it is, this selected, this is the outliner, by the way. This has everything in your scene. If I were to open up the safe object, you can see it has several nested objects in there. We're going to get to that in a second. Anyways, if we select the top one, that's this one. And we hit key, we can hit set key. And it puts a little red dot there. Or like I said, you can hit S. And now if I were to move it and set another key, hit the W button to move this over here, set another key, you can see it moves from one to the other. What the computer is doing here is interpolating the animations. It has a key here, and it has a key here, and it does the in-betweens all by itself. And if we were to look at, I'm going to go through a lot of windows. We'll go into them in detail. Don't worry about it. I'm going to go into the graph editor, another common thing we use here, and we can see that here's this translate X1 is the shows you there's the 20 frames, and there's 5, 10, 15, and if we zoom in, you can see it will show you all the numbers in between. And if we wanted to alter that path, we could add another key in here somewhere, and you can see it shows up here. If I move in here and hit another key, it shows up here. And so all the computer is doing is interpreting how I get from here to here. All right, so that's setting keys. So if I'm going to hold down the Shift key now, I'm gonna click in this box here, hold down the Shift key, drag, hold down the left mouse button and drag, and it creates this little box around it. And then if you right click, this is how you edit keys. So now I'm gonna hit delete, and it's going to erase those. You can also do stuff like move keys around, copy them, paste them. We'll do a little bit of that. All right, so let's talk about this stuff over here. First off, let's make sure that we're all on the same animation page. I'm going to click the animation editor. That's this. It's actually the time shelf editor or the timeline editor. All the same sort of stuff. You want to make sure your frame rate is 24 frames per second. And you want to come down here, make sure that your playback speed is 24 by 1. And you can do that. And if you have trouble seeing, you can increase the size of your ticks. That's called a tick, but it's really a key. Key ticks. And all the rest of the stuff we don't need to talk about right now. Hit save. And then right next to that button is the auto keyframe toggle. So this is, once you set one key in here, now with this button on, all I have to do is move this somewhere else and it automatically sets a key. And I can add any kind of key I want. You can try that now. When you're grabbing this, make sure you're not grabbing these pieces because these pieces are separate. We're just grabbing the safe, the main body of this. It looks like we have everything selected, but we don't. There's the handle, there's the dial, there's the door. We just want the safe. All right, try moving that around with auto key on. Remember, you have to have a key set on frame 0 first. And then once you've set a key here, it makes the timeline active. So anytime you're doing any animation in Maya, you have to select the object and then set a key, and then the timeline becomes active for it. Now you'll notice here that these three don't have any keys yet. That's because we haven't put any animation on them. But they don't care. These three are what are parented to this box. So anywhere this goes, these three go with it. So don't animate those quite yet. We'll get to that. But please play around with this and moving it. And so once again, I'm going to click. Here we can try moving a key. I'm going to click over here, hold down Shift, click in the timeline, drag my box around it. And then if you see, I can click between these two things and drag it around to a different time. I can do that with multiple keys if I want. I can select both of these and move them around. I can also stretch them by grabbing this and see it stretches the distance between them. But for now, let's just concentrate on deleting them. Actually, we can do this here. We can go here and move the box over. Auto key is on, so it sets a key. And then I want it to go back to the beginning. I'm making a cycle where the box goes out and then comes back. So I'm going to click in here on this key, hold down Shift, click, and go copy. And then I'm going to come over here and right click in the timeline and go paste. And so now the key, it goes out to that key and then back to our original key. That's how you make a cycle, is you copy the first key to the last key. And then anything that happens in the middle, it just goes in a cycle. So now if I play this, by the way, this is the play button in case you didn't recognize it. And see, it just kind of loops in a cycle. The play button forward, play button reverse. You get hot tips if you, by the way, when you click on them. This is go to next key. So if I click this, it'll go from key to key to key. And this is go to key backwards. And this is zoom to the far end. This just goes that to the far end. And then this is playback. All right. So now we've learned how to move the box around. I'm going to leave these two keys here. I'm going to go to the middle one. And let's see what else we can animate. We can animate, if I hit R, we can animate scale. So for instance, I can make this get really big. I use the floor, this grid as my floor. And this darker line here is called the 0, 0. So that's the center of my universe. If I start animating something, generally I start with whatever my object is sitting on the floor and centered at the 0, 0. Hopefully when you open this file, it was right there. So I've added scale to it. So now it's getting big. So it's scaling. And then as it comes back, it'll go back down. So scale here is this one, sorry. And if I grab the blue one, it scales universally. If I grab the other two, it scales only in that direction. I can also animate rotation. So when I set a key originally here, it set keys for rotation, translation, and scale, all three of these. And if I go and add a scale key, or a rotation and scale key to it, you can see it blends from this frame to this frame over time, and then back again to 0. Now, a really good way to see where you are in space and time is to have this thing open. It's called the channel box editor. And you can see right now this box, it's all set to zeros except for scales, which are always set to ones, but there's no translation or rotational. This tells you how many degrees of each of these things that are on the object you have selected. So for instance, let's go to the middle where I have stuff. So if we go here to our keyframe, you can see that the translation, it's moved 2.27 units off of the center, and it's translated up 1.037 units off of the center. So because I scaled it up right, I moved it up in the air and then moved it back. And you can also see that it's got a rotation here of 308 degrees. If you like, you can come in here and numerically input stuff. I do this a lot for rotation. So if I only wanted to rotate 180 degrees from here to here, I can numerically put in 180 degrees or 360 or anything I want. And you can see the scale is set here. It goes from being at 1 and it climbs up to that, and then it goes back to 1. Okay. I guess we should do a quick bit about the gizmos. This is if I'm going to switch to 4, if I hit 4 on my keyboard, it goes to wireframe. 5 is shaded mode. 6 is textures. 7 is lighting. I'm going to leave it in 5 because it's easier to see that way. Also have the option of right now I like working like this because I can see what's going on, but if you don't need to see the wireframe on it, you can take that off. And then the wireframe only pops on when it's selected. I prefer having the wireframe on shaded all the time. It helps me orient things, but you don't have to. You can pick any of the, you mess around with these. You can do X-ray so you can see or whatnot. Okay, back to the gizmos. It's a little hard to see. I'm going to create a little tiny object. Nope. So if I hit W, that lets me move things in every direction. The blue one lets me freeform move things per my window. I mean the center one, the light blue one. The dark blue one is always Z. Dark blue is Z, which means forward and back if you're looking at it from a front view. Z is considered depth or forward and back. Sometimes I'll speak about move it in the Z. X is side to side, left to right. That's the red one. And the green one is Y. Y is always up and down. Like that. And if you get confused, it's down here in the corner. So this same thing applies. If I hit E on the keyboard, it switches me to rotational mode, and I can rotate around the Y, same thing. I can rotate around the X. So imagine like there's a pole going through the middle of this thing. And I can rotate around the Z that way. And then if I grab the outside one here, this is per the camera. So this rotates as where the camera is. It rotates it in space from where you're looking at it. It's like, okay, I want to rotate it right there. But you can see it really messes things up over here. So you can reset this to its original location and stuff if you just go in and type in these numbers. Maybe you want it to go back to the original location. You can do that, and it moves back. All right, I'm going to delete that. Okay, let's get down to business. So the first thing I'd like you to do is try animating the safe spinning around. The second thing I'd like you to do is undo those keys for a second. And now we're going to select all of these. I'm going to hit Control and click on each one of these individually because I want to set keys on the door here. And I'll hit S on frame 1. So now just go through and check. They all have a keyframe on frame 0. I then want to go in here and we're going to crack this safe. If you don't have it open, Arnold, so you can see what you're doing. I'm going to hit 6 so we can see the numbers stuff. There's textures on it. So what I'd like you to do is using the rotational tool and the blue thing here, right? We're just rotating it around the Z. And maybe it's a little wonky in its placement. It could be better. It's okay. I want you to rotate this to 3 different numbers. So start off here and on frame 10, I want you to rotate to 55. And you can see there's the marker there. And so if we turn this off, if I click off of here, so I can see what I'm doing, it goes from there to 55. And then we're going to go beyond 55, go frame 10, we're going to go to frame 20 and hit another key. So that is called a hold. So it moves and then it stops. And then we're going to move it again. We're going to go back the other way this time to frame 25. To frame 55, holds there, and then rotates to frame 25 there. We're going to go another 10 frames and hit S because we want it to hold there. And then another 10 frames. And we want this to go back to frame 10. And another 10 frames because we want that to hold. S. So now if we play this animation, it looks like this. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. Right? And if I get out of there, you can see the dial spinning. Do, do, do. And you'll notice that the dial just, when we're done animating, there's nothing between here and here. So it just is sitting here this whole time without any animation on it. That's fine. That's where we want it to last. If we could put another frame here at the very end, that's the same number as this, just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere, because if we accidentally set a key, we'll do that. If we accidentally set a key later on down the road, it'll get angry and it'll move funky. Okay, so doot. We've opened the safe here. So let's now click on the handle. And you can see the handle hasn't been doing anything because it's been sitting there. But when the dial stops there at 50 or 60, so let's here on frame 60, set a key. So we have a key here in frame 0 for the handle, and then a key here. Okay, then on frame 60, I want you to go into the handle here, and we're going to go 10 more frames, 70. Rotate that up. Oh, I got to turn the auto key back on. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rotate it down like that. Great. I think you've cracked the safe. Okay, so now we can open the door. So I'm going to select the door object here. Where did our handle end up? At frame 78. So we need to go to the door. So make sure that's selected. Go to frame 78. Set a key there. Chink. And then on frame 100, the very end frame, we want to rotate this in the Y. So grabbing this middle one and open the safe. And there's nothing in it. There's knowledge in it. That's what you get. All right. And if we play our animation, it should look like this. If you'd like it to stay open for longer, we can add frames here by going into this thingy majigger, the rangefinder, typing in more frames. I typed in 200, and that way it'll stay open a little bit longer. And if I play this, click on that, shading, get rid of that, play it, do-do. You're animating. Look how exciting that is. Great, that's your first animation assignment. Good luck with that.